Hey everyone! Have you ever wondered why Sandy lives underwater? Why bother with the whole scuba gear and living in a dome when she could easily invent her nutty gadgets and chat helmets on the surface? But there's no rodeo here, and karate moves are slowed down by water resistance. Yet, she adores her homeland, Texas, misses home and family, but lives at the ocean floor, desperately trying to get a 20-year research contract from those three chimps. Why? Well, I have an answer, and it's more intriguing than you might think. During the Bikini Bottom tour, as an addition to the official DVD of the first season, Patchy the Pirate shared some interesting details about Sandy's home. In the third episode of the first season, when Sandy meets SpongeBob, she tells him about how she ended up there. Sandy is originally from Houston, a city in Texas, where the NASA Johnson Space Center is located. Apparently, that's where Sandy got the dome for living underwater. Therefore, it's not surprising that just a few episodes later, in the 8th episode of the first season, Sandy plans to launch a rocket from underwater. It seems that the initial purpose of her arrival at the NASA Space Center was to attempt this experiment. Although SpongeBob disrupted her plans, the mission was quite successful. The rocket successfully launched from underwater, reached the moon, and returned back, making a not-so-smooth but not catastrophic landing. On one hand, the idea of launching a spaceship from the sea may seem silly, but on the other hand, it might help avoid frequent ship destructions during launches and landings. Even the inexperienced Patrick from SpongeBob managed to survive and not smash the rocket to pieces. However, after this incident, Sandy Cheeks continued to live in Bikini Bottom, no longer attempting to launch anything into space. Therefore, it can be assumed that Sandy then focused on another goal. After arriving in the underwater city, Sandy discovered something unusual there. Clouds cannot be underwater, and in the sky, they do not resemble colorful flowers. Moreover, these little clouds move at the same speed as water, as if they are part of it. This is because that's how it is. There is heavy water, which is externally indistinguishable from regular water, but contains two atoms of the heavy isotope of hydrogen, called deuterium. This deuterium is often used in nuclear energy, and heavy water is used to generate atomic energy. And the excessive amount of deuterium on the water's surface looks like colorful flowers floating on it. That's exactly what SpongeBob and Sandy discussed. Moreover, when seawater mixes with deuterium and an excess of sodium chloride, the likelihood of underwater lakes similar to gulags increases, where the main characters often have fun. And Steven Hillenburg didn't randomly give the city the strange name Bikini Bottom. From 1946 to 1954, the USA conducted nuclear tests in the Pacific Ocean on an atoll named Bikini. According to Nickelodeon's official data, the city where the main characters live is located under this atoll and is called Bikini Bottom, which confirms the above. However, underwater salt lakes and heavy water with a high deuterium content are harmful to marine life. According to experiments, they cannot survive there for more than a week. That's why NASA chose Bikini Bottom as the location to launch a rocket from underwater, so no one would interfere with the experiment. And Sandy was surprised to discover not only living but also evolved, intelligent beings here. Therefore, upon their first meeting, Sandy will want to learn more about SpongeBob and other marine inhabitants. And so, upon hearing about his ability to breathe air, she believed him, taking it as another consequence of radiation. If because of nuclear tests, a sea sponge started talking, and fish built homes, who knows what's happening on the surface of these islands? Perhaps all the wildlife there has mutated. But it's likely that the radiation on the surface was so strong that there were no survivors on the shores. Only alien seagulls come here, which, it's worth noting, do not possess the same level of intelligence and can only squawk like birds. This indicates that not all animals in this world are intelligent. As evidence, one can cite Sandy's pets from the Wormy episode, including ants, a turtle, bees, a beetle, a lizard, a snake, a spider, a chameleon, a frog, a bird, a cricket, a worm, and none of them showed signs of intelligent life. The squirrel herself, her relatives, and the sponsors of chimpanzees are likely either subjects of NASA's research, having evolved themselves under the guidance of human scientists, or have been subjected to radioactive experiments, leading to an enhancement of their intelligence. Sandy remained underwater to learn more about what led to the development of marine creatures, and to conduct experiments on her pets cautiously. How will animals behave in such conditions? Who will benefit and who will suffer? For instance, the cricket in a hydro helmet from the Save the Squirrel series lived peacefully at the bottom of the ocean until Sandy sent him to the surface. However, as soon as fleas in the Fleadome episode touched the water, they vanished instantly. However, all these studies are not within the scope of NASA's activities. Therefore, Sandy needed to find new sponsors who, like her, were interested in studying this area. That's when she got in touch with Professor Percy, Lord Reginald, and Dr. Marmalade, who appear to be directors of 3 domes. This company, judging by its name, is involved in designing and building underwater homes for land dwellers. Their primary goal is to improve the seabed for the comfortable living of terrestrial beings. Bikini Bottom has tremendous potential because the local waters can positively influence the intellectual development of living beings. However, before introducing animals from the surface and initiating their evolution, it is necessary to study this anomaly and prepare the area for them, which is precisely what Sandy is doing. Throughout all subsequent seasons, she develops numerous devices that could simplify the lives of surface dwellers in the sea. For example, she has created a helicopter capable of flying underwater, an equivalent to an airplane, a submarine, an ocean floor jeep, a car running on coconut milk, an underwater jetpack, and a teleporter. This squirrel has also designed and built a huge army of helper robots, which, for some undisclosed reason, are currently just gathering dust in her garage. In the future, it's likely that the robots from the garage will assist newcomers from the surface in settling into Bikini Bottom. Sandy has organized water supply, electricity, and telephone communication for the homes under the dome, and she even tries to grow various plants directly on the ocean floor, from ordinary flowers to fresh beans. She even has a whole greenhouse with various types of plants. Essentially, she has successfully tested and prepared everything necessary for underwater living, so in the latest seasons, more and more surface dwellers visit Bikini Bottom. In the 5th season, Sandy's cousin visited and tried to get a job at the Krusty Krab. A fluffy perch descends underwater to test Sandy and see if she is worthy of the black belt. Kenny walked underwater, trying to hold his breath until Sandy gave him a suit. Ruzy visits with her 3 daughters, each with their own spacesuit. Sandy visits 100 of her cousins, with whom she tries to break a record. By this time, it is worth noting, she already has a special channel for terrestrial creatures to quickly rise from underwater to the surface. However, over time, it becomes clear that life at the bottom of Bikini Atoll is not as smooth as it seemed. Squirrels have to stock up on nuts and gain weight to survive the winter, even though hibernation is not natural for them. Apparently, such conditions demand it from the organism, and Sandy is powerless to change that. During these periods, she becomes particularly irritable and unable to resist instincts. Therefore, deuterated water has a negative impact on creatures in contact with it, and it is still unknown how it will affect others. In the episode Wild Friends, there is final evidence of this theory. At the beginning of the episode, a green sphere emerges from the volcano, which locals call the Neptune's moon. If its radioactive rays touch marine creatures, they lose their normal form for 2 hours, but then regain intellect and body. This confirms that nuclear tests were indeed conducted over Bikini Bottom, and this Neptune's moon is their consequence. The impact of this radioactive sphere on living beings demonstrates how its elements influence the development of underwater culture beneath Bikini Atoll, possibly facilitating easy ignition underwater. As you can see, simply comparing all those boring stories Sandy tells, which we usually ignore, and putting together everything she says, we can create a complete picture that fully answers most of the mysteries of SpongeBob SquarePants. If you want more videos about SpongeBob, let's gather more likes on this video. That's all for today. Thank you for watching and goodbye.